Welcome to BARI Banter, where we talk everything bariatric surgery with the people that know it best, the patients. I'm Shannon, and I'm here with my co-hostess with the mostest,
Lita. So sit back, relax, and remember, sip, sip, sip.
Well, welcome back to week 38 of BARI Banter. Can you believe it's 38 weeks that we've been doing this?
That's more than half a year.
Why, yes, indeed it is. Also, I want to ask you a question. When you look at me, do you see a bad boy?
I was going to say, hey, bad boy. No, I don't. But it seems that the last week it's been a bit of a theme.
Yeah, I just must give off that, like, he's going to cause trouble thing.
Yeah, but is it that I'm a bad girl and it's you that takes the rap for me?
Yeah, so we went down to, obviously, Sydney for Kay's 50th. We went out
Happy birthday, Kay.
What was the casino we went out to?
The Star Casino.
Star Casino. And Alita was intoxicated, mildly.
No.
Only mildly.
It's wine. Wine does it to me. Anyway.
And I walked past the security and they were looking at you and going, the girl in the gold dress, like they were going to cut you off. And then I overheard it and I was like, no, don't cut her off. She's chill. Nah, she's hardly even had anything to drink. Just kind of like being like, yeah, funny, I'm so funny because Shannon's had like a few beers and he thinks he's so funny.
It really doesn't help that I've walked up to the bar quite intoxicated and been like, I want 7 French martinis.
Yeah, that was after, because I went up there to the bar and then they came to me and gave me a bottle of water and I was like, oh, is this for my partner? And they're like, no, it's for you. And I was like, what? I'm like sober. Like I've hardly had anything. And then they were like, oh, that you cut off, blah, blah. And I had a bit of a chat to him about it. And then, went back. And then you went up and went, I'll have 7 martinis. And then they're like, next minute, 2 police officers and the manager come up to me and were like, we're going to ask you to leave the casino. And I was like, why? They're like, oh, no. And they're like, how many drinks have you had? And I've had 2 pints of 50 lashes. Like, where'd you have them? I had them here.
Check your security cameras,
and I'm
mate.
like, I'm literally so sober. And then they, escorted me out. And I was like, wow, this is like a new thing. Like,
and I was like chasing the security being like, look, I understand that I'm intoxicated, but like, why is he being kicked out? And I was like, why is he being kicked out by the police?
I don't know if that was helping or hindering because Alita running behind like, what are you doing?
I was like, we've been in a show all night. There's no way that this could have happened.
There's no way. Yes, during the show I had 3 bottles of wine, but there's no way.
They're like, this is what happens after Hamilton every night.
Yeah, and then at the airport, I got pulled up by the security there because I had like extra batteries and blah, 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 and they tried to take one of my batteries.
You look like a terrorist, okay?
Oh.
Maybe you need to shave your moustache.
That was hurtful. Shave my moustache. I was away from home, so I hadn't shaved in a few days and whatever it is. But either way, I'm a bad boy. I've waited 33 years of my life to be considered a bad boy.
I'd really like for you to come and visit me at work next week and see if you get in through the security at work to see if it's just security guards that don't like you or if
I know,
it's
you watch.
like,
Next minute I won't be able to work at schools because they'll take my blue card away because they'll be like, you're just a bad boy, we just can't have riffraff like you floating around our schools. I'm sorry. Speaking of riffraff,
our guest tonight is definitely not riffraff. That was the worst segue ever.
I thought that's better than the sperm one we had last week.
Well, we need note to self, work on segues.
I think I'm nailing it if you ask me.
Nailing it.
Anyway,
our guest tonight was bypassed only in October of last year of 2020, but not without any complications. Despite being re-hospitalised for severe dehydration and dealing with some past traumas, she's still managed to drop a massive 35 kilos in the last 7 months and truly is owning her own journey. Please welcome tonight's guest, Maintaining Mags, also known as Maggie. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
See,
how are you?
That was a better segue, wasn't it?
We didn't talk about sperm before your episode, so it's all good.
I mean, you totally got my Instagram handle wrong.
Oh.
Maintaining Mags, isn't it?
No, it's Motivating
Oh,
Mags.
shit. I'm sorry.
Wow. Okay, one job.
No, that's okay.
We totally could have cropped that out, but now we're just going to keep it in there because it's funny.
I always get hung up for my tech issues because Lita likes to make a point out of it.
Shannon always pushes the wrong button beforehand, so I always make a big deal of it. But okay, maintaining. Look, and now it just means that everybody's going to focus on your Instagram handle more because we've spoken about it for so many.
That's it. It only works in her favour. So
anyway.
you are, how far out are you now? You're 7 months. 7 months out, is that right?
I guess so, yeah.
Is that right? I'm questioning what our leader's written down in our notes
October,
now,
November,
because-
December, January, February, March, April, May. We're May, so 7 months. It's
Yeah. So it's the end of October, yeah.
yeah, so we're
7 months.
almost 7 months. Yeah.
So let's go back to like your pre-op. How did you find your pre-op stage?
Honestly, that was, I feel like, the easiest part for me, personally.
Yeah?
Some days I wish, when I can hardly eat anything, I think, oh, if only I could eat what I was eating on pre-op. As, I was allowed by my dietitian as many veggies, as much meat. I was allowed Greek yogurt, hummus. So I was eating carrots and hummus like it was going out of fashion. I did have one cheat day, but I feel like everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people did have at least one little cheat in pre-op. But yeah, pre-op for me was easy besides the headaches and, yeah, wanting to binge because I was so emotional that I was about to get cut open in a few days.
Yeah.
My cheat day was literally the night beforehand because I was kind of like, you know what, I've done the 10 days or 14 days beforehand. The night before surgery is not going to screw everything up for me. So I distinctly remember my brother was here from Sydney and his whole family was here, and I had a slice of pizza from Domino's or wherever we got it from. And then I followed it up with a salad because I felt so guilty. But that was my cheat day.
I love it.
Cheat
I
day.
had to be very strict for the 3 days before. I had to be liquid. So my cheat was the weekend prior, so like a week out from surgery.
Mm.
It's funny though because everybody's pre-op is completely different depending on which surgeon you go through.
We had the same surgeon, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I was like, yours was sounding very similar to my pre-op, like because a lot of people have very strict pre-ops, and yours is like unlimited vegetables, meat.
Meat?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a thing because you guys could have meat. And
Yeah.
for mine, because I was done 3 years ago and it's changed. I know that my surgery's changed it a little bit since I was on pre-op. But when I was on pre-op, I had to do 3 shakes a day. I wasn't allowed to have a meal of a night time. I was only allowed to have my allowed vegetables. But then throughout the middle of the day, I could have either 1 egg or 1 tin of tuna. So I used to save my tin of tuna up and I'd have tuna and salad for dinner at night, if that makes sense. So like,
Yeah.
But now I think it's changed a little bit where they're actually only having 2 shakes and a meal at dinner time, depending on which surgeons you're with. But like when I met Shannon, he was like, "Oh no, my surgeon was chill," and I was like, "Oh my god, I wish I had gone with your surgeon because it probably would have been easier."
Yeah, he was. He's a great surgeon, And
Yeah.
my mum called, when we met him, we walked in the room and kind of thought, oh my God, has somebody hijacked this surgeon's consult? And then, my mum called him Dr. McDreamy.
Yeah, I was gonna say because he's a good-looking fella. Yeah, I
You guys are
I feel the
clearly
same.
fans of what's that show? Grey's Anatomy, because they called all their He's McDreamy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Shut up.
So how did you find like the mental process in pre-op? Was it quite difficult for you, or like were you just ready to get it done? Like, did you find the transition hard?
Definitely, because, you're going from eating whatever you want. And personally, once I set the date for my surgery, I was having a food funeral every single day. And I definitely stacked on. I think I stacked on from the day I booked my surgery, which was June or July last year. So, a few months. I was having a food funeral every day. So I put on 10 kilos in that span of time, just going to town on whatever and everything I wanted. So, going from having anything and everything to, although our pre-op was relaxed compared to some, it was still strict. I'm not a lover of the shakes myself. So, it was hard mentally to think this is all I'm eating for the next 14 days. And then after that, I'm going to be not eating for 6 to 8 weeks.
It does take a little bit to get your head around exactly how much you're going to be eating, because when they're showing you like the portion sizes and stuff like that, you're kind of like, what? no, I need 10 times that. That's
Yeah.
that's never going to be enough fuel for me. So
And
why was it that you went sleeve over, bypass over sleeve?
So I had a mini gastric bypass. That was just my surgeon recommended for him. I haven't had children yet, and we certainly want to. And I believe he's done a bit more training and research since you were sleeved, Shan.
Yeah.
And he does do a lot of bypasses and mini bypasses these days, just because the research has changed a little bit. But yeah, that was what was recommended to me. I had my heart set on a sleeve because I didn't know anything about bypasses.
Yeah.
And then going in, he explained it. I chatted to a few other people who had mini bypasses. And the thing that sold me is it's reversible. So if I had this awful complication, I couldn't eat, something, awful along those lines, I could always get it reversed and then just have a sleeve.
It's funny because when you say that, because we've talked about the whole, reversing, how it was a thing that I didn't want to be able to reverse it. But I was looking at it from a point of view of the weight, where we've had a few people now who have mentioned about, they wanted the option in case like they had an issue to be able to reverse it to then not have the issue. And like, I was like, oh, it's funny because that's not how I was looking at it, but it makes a lot of sense because, I've seen other people within the community who have had the sleeve and then had the reflux issues, and then it's just like they've had to chase the issue rather than just being able to like reverse it, if you know what I mean, and go back to what it was before.
Yeah, eating disorders are obviously so prevalent in people who are seeking out having bariatric surgery. So having seen someone go from, obese to then having an eating disorder, being tube fed because their stomach literally cannot handle any food, I thought, I do not want that. So if that happened to me, I just reversed it. It was never a thought of I'm going to reverse it because I'm so unhappy with what I'm eating. It was just the nurse in me was like, from a medical point of view, I feel safest with this operation.
And from the nurse background, like obviously reversing a bypass is not just a simple
fix
procedure. It's quite a complicated, complicated is the wrong word, but it's quite a lengthy procedure. Would you,
Definitely,
if you were to come across some sort of, eating intolerance now, like you're not quite a year out, but if you were to come across an eating intolerance now, would you happily go back and reverse it and get the sleeve done, knowing what
definitely
you know now?
Not a tolerance. Like if I became celiac, you can't become celiac, sorry. If you became gluten intolerant, dairy intolerant, I wouldn't have it reversed. But if I could not eat another thing ever, I certainly would have it reversed because I do enjoy food, even being bypassed and only being able to eat X amount of food these days.
So if it came down to the fact of you being tube fed or being able to physically eat food again, and I think that's the thing, like most people would take that option, if it came down to being tube fed or if you could have another procedure to reverse what you've done, then I think it would come down to that. But I think a lot of people look at the bypass and go, oh, it can be reversible, but it's not an easy reversal.
It's not like
it comes
going
with
under the sink and changing the plumbing.
It comes with complications, and I think that's something like it's not necessarily to say that it can't be done, but it's also not as easy as band out. If you have a band, you can quite easily go under, get the band taken out, and everything goes back to normal. I think with the bypass, people need to, as much as it is a reversible surgery, they also need to be known that the reversal of it is quite lengthy.
Yeah.
And of course, you're going to be up for the cost if you're not insured, or even if you are.
Yeah, 100%.
That would put you off if you just say, I can't eat bread anymore, I'm going to have it reversed.
I can't eat a croissant. I want a refund. Give me my stomach back.
Yeah. Well, originally it was actually meant to be like bariatric surgery was meant to be a two-step process. So it was meant to be sleeve and then bypass. Like it was meant to be 2 steps, and then they just worked out they were getting good out of both. So they just made it so it was optional each way. Have you, being 7 months out now, have you started to understand what it was and the issues that got you to where you were? Like, because obviously you have to kind of sit back and go, oh, it wasn't a case of, I just got carried away one day and ate one cheeseburger and it put all my weight on. Usually there's underlying issues like habits and different things in your life that kind of make you develop certain habits and stuff that lead you down the path to get there, because obviously it doesn't just happen overnight, it's over a period of time. Have you kind of started to sit down and assess those kind of things?
Yeah, so I was, a bit of backstory, in 2013 to 2015 I was diagnosed bulimic and anorexic. So I was 55 kilos. And no one at the time knew because, you know, those things are pretty easy to hide. I just looked like a fit and healthy teenager. And then I went through a traumatic experience and realized, okay, I can't keep making myself sick. And then I went a whole 360 and turned to food as my comfort. And just that's where a binge eating disorder came from. So I've had multiple eating disorders on both ends of the spectrum. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend either, that's for sure.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah, food was my comfort. Food was my therapy for sure. And I never hid food from anyone. I just always wanted to eat.
How did you make that, like, because you hear about people when they have bariatric surgery making the transition from, like, the transition from being overweight to being anorexic and having an eating disorder, but going from being, you know, bulimic, you know, and having that not wanting, the relationship where you don't want food, to being, you know, a binge eater, you know, was it purely the trauma that created that, or was it just kind of like a, you know, when you do something for a certain amount of time that you get over it? Like, it's kind of like you transition, like, out of, like, habit, or, like, what was it that made you transition? Because that's, like, from one end to the other, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, you've gone
extreme,
from... Yeah. So it's like, was it purely the trauma that made you do, like, make those changes, or was it just a... Yeah, I'm trying to, like, understand it myself.
I know.
How you make that mental adjustment.
I'm sure my psychologist thinks the same thing every time we talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was in a domestic violence relationship, which is terrible for anyone. But as a teenager, I did not have the strategies to cope with that. So I realized I've got to stop being bulimic because I'm being abused for making myself vomit. So if I don't want to get hurt, I'm going to have to stop vomiting. And then I thought, how do I make myself feel better? I somehow turned to food. So I don't know where the line crossed, and I don't know what made me turn to food. It just, it was one addicting thing to another.
Yeah. Wow, it was almost like a coping mechanism, though, by the sounds of that.
So he was abusing you for your bulimia. Like, is that kind of one of the main reasons why it was happening?
Oh, I mean, I'm not a psychopath myself, so I can't answer that. But, you know, bulimia, anyone who's suffered with that, or purging, they know that you can only hide it from your loved ones and people that are around you all the time for so long, because they realize, okay, why is she going to the toilet exactly when she finishes eating? Or, you know, there's got to be something wrong. And everyone said, oh, have you got IBS? Like, are you intolerant to something? And I had all these tests done, and I knew exactly why I was doing it. But yeah, people caught on, and my ex, I like to call him a perpetrator.
Yeah.
He was a teenager himself. He caught on to it and said, you need to stop doing this.
How old are you at that time? Like, because you say teenager, was it early teens, late teens?
Yeah, so I was 14 to 17. I broke up with him a month after I turned 17. Thank goodness. I'll be 22 this August, so I'm just a wee baby.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so young.
That's such a hard part of your life to go through something like that, because you're kind of in that teenage years where you're really starting to develop into that adult. Yeah, so it's kind of like, you know, transitioning. Like, do you think the binge eating was to a because you were trying to become less desirable? Like, because some people I've heard about that as well, with, like, when they've had early trauma, they eat to become less desirable to the opposite sex.
Was it not that you didn't want to be less desirable? It was that your partner at the time was not accepting of your purging. So were you then trying to binge in order?
Is that the other word for it? Purging.
Purging, yeah.
Oh, that makes me think of
Binging
what was that?
And purging.
What was that?
Not the movie Purging. We're not going to
go
around
purge. Like, wow, you were killing.
No, I was not killing.
Okay,
correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the terminology is binging and purging.
Yeah, so making yourself sick, however you do it, laxatives, many different things, which, so they do call it purging, I believe. That's what I've picked up from much counselling and psychology.
Yeah, that's what I've picked up too from listening to different things and blah, blah, blah. But, like, so were you, I don't know, it could have gone the other way. Like, were you then, because you were purging, did you then decide to, like, you know, comfort yourself through food in order to be like, I'm not purging anymore. Like, this is what's happening, sort of thing.
So, like,
yeah, and it just happened unintentionally. Like, I didn't intend to start eating. I didn't have this plan and thought, oh, I'm going to turn to food to comfort. It just happened over time as I, you know, I certainly didn't recover from an eating disorder while I was in such a traumatic relationship. But food just became a comfort. And I thought, oh, when I'm feeling anxious because all of these awful things are happening to me, food takes that away from me and makes me feel safe.
Yeah.
So it certainly wasn't an intentional decision to start binging. It just happened slowly over time.
So sorry you had to go through that. That's like, I hate that stuff. Like,
But were you still, when you had your surgery, you weren't still with your ex-partner?
No, so I broke up with him I was 17, so quite a few years ago now. So yeah, I mean, I would say I'm recovered from that experience, but anyone who's been in similar situations knows that it lives with you forever.
You never truly recover from it. So in that time between breaking up from the perpetrator and having surgery, what was that time frame like? Were you having a healthy relationship with food, or were you still sort of like, you know, binging? Or
I think it's just like I've always had issues with my mental health. I've had OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder my whole life, and that, you know, is all of those sort of all of those obsessive. Traits. For me, purging was obsessive. So that tied into OCD again, and then binging became obsessive. So, you know, whenever I was struggling with something, I would just turn to food, whether, you know, I might have had a bad day at work or school, whatever the issue was, food was there for me. So it certainly wasn't a healthy relationship, but, you know, I was always trying to lose weight because the weight just stacked on and stacked on. You know, I went from being 55 kilos to my highest weight of 126. So, you know, that doesn't happen overnight.
No.
It happened over, you know, a number of years. But,
I want to ask a question about OCD, because I'm like I have OCD. Like, mine is like right now, I just had an itchy hand on my left and I had to scratch, like, because I scratched that side, I had to scratch my right hand side. And I was talking to Deb the other day because she wanted to get a tattoo on her left hand. And I started thinking about that, having a tattoo on my left hand but not my right hand, and it really made me feel like agitated because I'm a balanced person. So like if I do one, I go, what's your OCD look like? Like, is it to do with life or is it certain things you do?
No, so I have a specific phobia which I won't go into because everyone laughed at it. But I have, you know,
That's like the worst cliffhanger when you do that. Yeah.
Oh, I need to know now. I need to know.
I'll tell you in real life, but I don't want to project it on the internet.
No, that's fine.
But yeah, so I have cleaning rituals, and back when I was really struggling with my OCD, I like to pour bleach on my hands because I didn't feel clean enough. So I have like contamination OCD. Oh, wow. But, you know, you walk into my house now, there's baskets of unfolded washing. So there's so many misconceptions about OCD. Like you, Shan, you may have it. Like, I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, so I can't diagnose you. But when, you know, if you scratched your hand and if you know, maybe you thought, okay, if I don't scratch my left hand or the other hand, my mum's going to die. Like, that's how OCD manifests for people.
And that was like the crack thing when I was at school. I was obsessed with that. Like, you know, you step on the crack, you break your mum's back.
Yeah.
That became like a real thing for me. And I physically couldn't step on a crack because I'm like, oh no, it could hurt mum, you know, like things like that. So I guess maybe not the scratching thing because that's more just like I feel uneven, not like so much harm.
And I get that too, but that for me is just a quirk. That's not my OCD. Yeah. Like, you know, I might forget it. But so it's certainly a hard thing to live with.
Has having OCD made this whole process harder for you?
The only times it's made it harder for me was being in hospital. So when the nurses would touch me or, you know, they would bring in me a bottle of water, I would have to think, okay, these people work in hospital, they're clean, they can touch me. And being a nurse myself, like, I know the sort of infection control that you know, and your hands are usually clean. But when I said to my surgeon, through our many consults, I said, "Are you going to be clean when you cut me open?" And he kind of looked at me like, "Are you okay?" Like, of course I'm going to be clean. Yeah, and
he's
so
like, no, I'm not going to be. I'm just gonna forget washing my hands. It's like, yeah, wow.
So your OCD comes down to like germs and that sort
Being
of thing.
cleanliness.
Cleanliness and clean and.
in a sense, yes, but I also have like the dirtiest car you've ever seen. My dogs sleep on my bed, so it manifests in very different ways, and that's the thing about OCD is, if I told you I have OCD, you expect to come into my house and everything's color coordinated, everything's spick, span, clean, and that's not it. Those things couldn't worry me less in life if my washing's not folded or my dishes aren't done or as you can see, my clothes are not in color coordinated order, and I like it that way.
It's really funny because I was just looking at your clothes being like, are they in color coordination?
But
they're certainly not.
You pointing that out makes me think you put that there as a distraction. You're like, and it's like really actually giving, like, you're having anxiety right now.
Anxiety.
No, like, you're sitting there right now and you're like, see, I don't have OCD because these don't go purple, pink, pink. Like,
so I do
distractions.
I do see that there's a lot of like gingham patterns and a lot of patterns in your clothes, and I love that. That's amazing.
Yes, I mean, when you have a wardrobe like mine, there's no way you could color coordinate it. It's that, and I like it that
colourful.
way. It's like a work of art on a rack.
100%. Look, I can't. It looks amazing. I'm kind of jealous. I want that back one with the black and white.
You've
frills.
got her now. Sell it to her. $300. No,
This one?
No, further back.
For anyone who
very
can't
last one.
see, Alita's just gone online shopping, all right? So
Yeah,
just give
that
us
one.
2 seconds for her to adjust.
Oh, it's green.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks black and white. Okay. So at the very beginning of your journey, you had a bit of a complication and you were readmitted into hospital for dehydration. What
Yes,
was
I was.
Severe dehydration, if I'm corrected. What were the symptoms and what was that like for you to be readmitted into hospital?
Oh, it was awful. So it was about 2 to 3 weeks post-op, and the whole week. So I got out of hospital. 5 days later, it was election time. I was out there campaigning for my local Green member, just me being less CIM. And I thought, oh my God, this recovery is a breeze. Just what are these people talking about? And then that weekend passed. From there, it went downhill. I couldn't tolerate anything. I was so nauseous the entire time. It was awful. I didn't want to eat anything. I couldn't drink water, as many of us can't. Because of it just sits funny. Anyone who's had the surgery will know the feeling. I'm talking about that heaviness, the elephant on your chest. I can drink it now, thank heavens. But yeah, I had seen my surgeon at the 1 week or 2 week post-op appointment, and I said, I'm feeling pretty crap. And he said, just focus on the fluids. And he said, here's my number. Anytime, don't you go to your GP, like you ring me and text me. And I texted him at midday and I was admitted to the hospital that afternoon. It was quick done. He's like, you need to come in straight away, woman. So, yeah.
Funny,
and then
I can imagine Garth saying that.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Severe dehydration, is that just like, did your body start to shut down to a degree, or like what were the indicators of that?
I wasn't weeing. And as a nurse, I thought, like, this is pretty, if I don't text Garth now, I'm going to have to take myself to surgery. And as anyone that works in medicine, you're your own worst patient. And I cried to my mum, my mother-in-law, my partner. I said, I know something's wrong. I've got to go back. And I don't love being in hospital, especially because I knew it was going to be the Noosa private, not the Budrum private. And I felt safe at the Budrum. So there was lots of things that I was like, I'm not going back to hospital. And I thought, if I don't, my kidneys are going to shut down.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And you get it, when everyone's had a bit of gastro or vomiting, and you just have that life drawn out of you. And I looked like I was knocking on death's door.
Yeah. I bet
and there is a fine line between, like, everybody goes through uncomfortable experiences after surgery, and I'll always say to people, anybody that reaches out to me prior to surgery, I'll always say to them, look, the first 2 days are, without sugarcoating them, they are pretty shitty. in hospital. Like, you don't feel like a superhero. It sucks. But once you get out of hospital and you get back into your own bed and you get back into your own home, you starting to feel normal. And then if you're sort of like, a couple of weeks down the track and you're still not feeling great, then that's when you need to start thinking about, something's not quite right. So I just couldn't imagine
if you feel like something's wrong, follow your gut instinct. And honestly, it's better to be safe than sorry in these situations. Our bodies have just been through extreme trauma. Like, we had major surgery, although most of our scars are pretty small. We had either our stomach removed, our stomach, like myself, had it rearranged a bit and some
you had your plumbing
put in.
Yeah.
Because the bypass, you still have your stomach, you just have it's bypassed.
Yeah.
So,
and with the band, you have a foreign body put into you as well. So, like,
that would be
all three of the surgeries are just quite as major as the other. It just depends on
and whatever it is.
Like, it's just crazy.
I think it's sometimes hard to understand what an issue actually feels like, and that's like why every time someone mentions like dehydration or whatever it is, I kind of try to see what the original like thing was that made you go, oh, there's an issue here.
Yeah, what was that for you?
It was a peeing first, and I was seeing how much water I could drink, and it was, I think, 200 mils in 36 hours because I just could not tolerate anything. It was making me so sick. Even everything, the Fiji water, couldn't drink that, couldn't drink Powerade, couldn't drink the protein water you get from cost price supplements, couldn't have anything. And I just thought 200 mils in 36 hours is bad.
No, it is.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's what would be the recommended amount of water that you're supposed to be having in the first 6 months? Like, it was.
Well,
when you're on fluids, I was told 100 mils an hour.
Oh, wow.
So
way under that.
With us, so in the first week of surgery, you're meant to be aiming for 1.5 to 2 litres of liquid a day. And that's from the day that you leave surgery through to, before you start purees. So in that first week, you should be aiming up to 2 litres of water a day, or water/liquids. Then obviously as you start introducing, purees or whatever, it's going to drop back a little bit. But like essentially you should be aiming for sort of like the 800 to a litre of water per day plus purees. So for you to only be getting in that tiny amount that's tiny. That's small.
Yeah. Definitely not enough to suffice the body, that's for sure. One thing, Lita and I, before we got you on tonight, we went on and had a look at your Insta because I like to have a scroll through and just kind of like, really see what it's all about. And the thing that I picked up on was your quotes I really liked. So it was like you had like, do your thing, see the good, you are loved. And I feel like that's something I did for a little bit because it's like you're almost not just telling others, you're telling yourself. Was that what it is for you? Like kind of just your thought for the day?
Definitely. It's kind of like my Motivating Mags page it's a diary. It's a reminder to myself when I'm having a bad day and think, I've only lost 35 kilos. I'm failing. And then I look back at photos and think, no, I'm doing okay. And then I look back at the colourful quotes and I think, no, I need to take my own advice and I need to listen to that as well as whoever else needs to hear it.
Yeah, no,
and
100%.
I don't use my Instagram as much as I should. I always check the messages to see if anyone wants to talk to me. But I was definitely, of course, everyone wants to talk to me.
Everyone, yeah. I'm sure you'll get lots of messages from people supporting you after this anyway. But yeah, like I totally get that because sometimes we can get very focused on, the scale's not moving and then stop appreciating the things that are possible from amount of weight.
That's the thing that I love the most about your Instagram is that the posts that I see on yours is the kind of like, you'll be like, oh, who's this girl? I have curves, or like I have a waist, or like who is this girl looking back at me? And like you're really appreciating like how far you've come
and your changes and different things like that.
Do you suffer from body dysmorphia at all, or is it?
Oh, absolutely. Like I was crying to my partner last night about it, and I just said, I feel like I was better looking when I had all like my weight on. Like 35 kilos ago, I feel prettier than I do now.
You actually said
Even
that
though-
in one of your posts. You said, "Why do I look so ugly in my after photos?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Sorry, what? What are you talking about? Like, you're gorgeous. What are you like? And you've done
and
so
that doesn't-
well."
Thank you. That doesn't come from a point of negativity or trying to, get myself down or say, everyone tell me how beautiful I am. It's just, that's how I'm feeling and that's how I'm going to tell people, because I feel like there's not enough awareness for the changes, the mental changes that you're going to see your body go through, whether you're losing weight naturally, you don't need to lose weight and you're having a tummy tuck. Like your mind doesn't catch up to whatever the scales or whatever your body is changing. And yeah, I just look in the mirror sometimes, or I pick something up and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm this size, or I'll tell the doctor, yeah, I weigh 126 kilos, and then I get on the scales and they're like, no, you don't. So yeah, I think that's the hardest part about this. And yeah, every day I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, that's not me.
Yeah.
Well, those aren't my hip bones that I'm feeling. Like, have I broken a bone here?
Yeah.
But do you not think that also though, like, because you've started, like, you've lost 35 kilos, do you think that sometimes when you go out and you don't put as much effort into, putting your hair and makeup on and getting dressed up and dolled up, so that when you do comparison photos, you're kind of like, oh, well, I'm not quite as dolled up as what I was in the first photo because you were trying to hide behind the makeup and the clothes and the hair and blah, blah, blah. Is that, do you think that's got some point of it? Because I know that would happen with some girls. I don't know if that's the sort of person that you are.
Yeah,
not,
I mean, like certainly, obviously, I've got some photos taken when I've got makeup on and photos from my 21st last year. And then I might compare it to a photo where I've got no makeup on. I've got, my hair and dreadlocks.
You've rolled out of bed and you've taken a photo of yourself. Yeah.
Like, of course you're going to look different, but no, it's not. It's not about the makeup or the hair for me, because I've always been pretty basic in that department. But it's just like I look at my cheeks and I'm like, oh, they're so, like, because I've lost weight around, my jawline, I'm like, oh, my cheeks are so chubby now. Like, when I smile, like here.
They're called cheekbones.
I didn't have that. They are called cheekbones.
They're called cheekbones, and people pay good money to get cheekbones, and you've got them naturally now.
Or I look at my legs and I'm like, who's like, those aren't my legs. They look weird. You can see kneecaps. I'm like, that's ugly. So
kneecaps. Ew, yeah, kneecaps. That's
you know what's funny though? Like, I went back to bar yesterday for the first time in a very long time, because I used to go to bar like once or twice a week, where it's like, ballet, fitness, Pilates, whatever, yoga, blah, blah, blah. And I haven't been in quite a few months, and it was they got us to do a plank, but it was like a weird ass plank, and I wear a leotard every time I go to bar. And I'm there on all fours and I'm looking down and my legs are looking all toned. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't done too badly. And then all of a sudden, all of my stomach, like my loose skin, I stopped sucking in for a second and all of it just went and fell down. And I was like, there it is.
Oh,
what a movie killer.
I was like, wow, okay, I need to come to bar more often, because I have an awful lot of loose skin on my stomach. But then once I started to let go a little bit, I noticed this loose skin on my legs, and I noticed the loose skin everywhere else. And I was like, you know what? I'm 3 years out. We're always going to find something about ourselves, regardless of if you're 1 month out, 3 years out, 6 months out. You're always going to find something about yourself that you're going to sort of want to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard because a lot of us, we were overweight for, so many years. So your body changing, losing 20 kilos in, I've lost 35 kilos in six, 7 months, whatever it is. Like, I'm seeing my bodies in ways I haven't for, since 2015. And, say if you were in your 40s and you had held your weight since you were in 20s, you haven't seen your body in these ways in so long. So, yeah, it's hard.
Because that was something I thought we've talked about before, and I thought about the other day actually, because it's I think sometimes in the early stages of the surgery, we expect this surgery to fix everything. So not only just our weight and our mental side and our life, it's we kind of look at it as it's a one-stop shop for everything. But then we start to lose the weight, and then we start noticing loose skin and stuff like that. And I think it really plays into that. Oh, it's not like we're not done yet.
Mm.
So like, cause like, yeah, you think losing the weight is going to bring you all this stuff and all this happiness and it's going to lead you in the right path. But then you start noticing other things that you kind of look at and in a negative way, and you start going, oh, and it, like, I think it really plays into that whole, like,
but I'm not gonna lie either. Like, I've never thought about having plastic stomach, but it wasn't until I was laying on all fours, looking at my stomach with my, like, what do we call this? Loose skin, the skin on my gunt. It wasn't until I saw my, that's a disgusting word, but it wasn't until I saw my stomach hanging down on when I was doing bar the other day that I was like, oh, maybe a tummy tuck is where I should be looking. And then I stood up and I looked in the mirror in front of me to do like plies or something. And I was like, you know what? You're just being a dickhead. Like, how often do people look at you from that angle where you're on?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how often do people look at you when you're doing a plank? From the angle that I would have seen myself. Like, it's ridiculous. Like,
I don't know. I plank everywhere. You know, I'm such a planker. But no, you're 100% right. And we're our own
worst critics. Yeah. And like, I've never thought about plastics before until it was yesterday when I was doing a plank, and I was like, oh, well, hang on a second. Maybe I should. Nobody's ever going to see that angle of me. Why do I need to have a tummy tuck? Like, you know, it's just, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Don't do it until you had your babies.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have babies and there's all that fun stuff to come as well.
Hopefully.
Now that you're approaching the 1 year, the golden 1 year, talk us through some of your big goals. Like, you know, like you've got the weight stuff.
Have they changed since when you first started surgery? Your goals from, like, you know, prior to surgery to after surgery, have they changed?
Well, honestly, going into surgery, I didn't have a goal weight or many goals as such. I just knew I wanted to come out alive, and then I'll think of goals once I've woken up in recovery, because I was pretty sure I was going to die on the table. So, but that's changed. I'm alive. I'm here.
That's good. Yeah.
You're 7 months down the track. You're still alive. Well done.
Yeah. So I'm still umming and ahhing about a goal weight, but, you know, babies are on the cards for the next 5 to 10 years. A bit loose on that number because I want to be married first, and, you know, I don't want to propose to myself, so John's got to do that. But I want to get back into the gym or some sort of exercise class or group or CrossFit or something, because I haven't been down that road in a few years, and I do really remember loving it. And, you know, I want to get stronger. I had a workplace injury a few years ago, and even though I've lost 35 kilos since when I did it, it hasn't gotten much better. So I think going to the gym is a big one, getting strong that way, because, you know, I've started walking. Prior to surgery, I would have parked the car as close to the shopping centre as I could, and now I intentionally think, no, I'm going to park away and I'm going to walk a bit further. Or, you know, I'll go on little walks and hikes, but I haven't started exercising anywhere near as much as you guys do. Or, so exercise is number one. Gosh.
But it sounds like you've definitely taken that the mental process of, like, you know, understanding that little bit more movement will give you a little bit more benefit and, like, make you feel a certain way, which is great. You know, you don't need to get out there and run marathons, and, you know, don't need to do all this stuff to be, you know, feeling that way. You know, it's sometimes just taking the stairs rather than the elevator, or, you know, doing something that gets that blood flowing and makes you feel happy.
And so there was a woman that we've asked to come on the show, and I won't mention her just in case she doesn't want her name to come out, but, like, we've asked her a few times, like once or twice, to be like, hey, do you want to come and tell your story? And she's like, oh, well, no, because I don't feel like I'm quite as successful as you guys, because, you know, I've never ran a marathon, or I've never done triathlons, or blah, blah. But she continuously posts photos of the fact that she, you know, she'll, not only will she not park, like, the furthest car park away from the shopping centre, she'll park in the car park in the shopping centre adjacent to where she's going. Like, so she'll walk further, and it keeps on getting further and further away. Or, like, you know, she keeps on, you know, she's dropped 4 dress sizes, and all this sort of things. And, like, you know, it's things that, just because everybody measures their success in different ways. Because Shannon and I are into the fitness side of things, and I'll be completely honest, I'm not as much into the fitness side of things as what I used to be. I'm measuring my success on different things at the moment. My goals have changed, but that's not to say like that I'm not still into my fitness. But everybody measures their goals in different ways, like their point of success in different ways. And if yours is the fact that you're now, instead of taking the lift to work, you're walking the stairs to get to your work, or you're parking an extra 10 car spaces away from the entrance of the shopping center, like there's nobody can tell you what the right or wrong way is. Like everybody's successful in their own different ways.
And I think it's a case of like we're always looking for that next thing to give us that sense of worth and happiness. And I think that's where Instagram kind of, and social media on a whole, has a little bit of a negative side, because it's very easy to see someone being happy and seeing what they do, like where it's marathons, and being like, oh, it's because of that's why they're portraying a certain happiness, and then it makes us feel lesser about ourselves, because we're not doing that and we don't look as happy as that person. But in reality, we're all got our good days, bad moments, whatever they are. I
read every single person who fills out the form to come on Barry Banter, and I can guarantee you that the number one thing, because we always ask people, what's your top tip or what's the most valuable lesson that you've learnt, like going into surgery or after surgery, and the number one thing is, do not compare yourself to other people.
I was literally about to butt in and hoped you say that. And I do the exact same. Like, I was listening to the beautiful Shari episode, Less of S. Absolute love her. I just wanted to be my best friend.
She will
Shari,
be,
please move to Queensland. And she said to her partner, she's like, look, we're going to walk every day, whether it's 5 minutes or whatever. The day she got out of hospital, and I'm like, oh my God, I should be like Shari. I should have, and she's joined a gym and all these, like, she's excelling. She's amazing. And I'm comparing myself to her. And if I had messaged her and said, look, I'm feeling shit because I haven't done what you've done, she would have been like, girl, like, you're an idiot. Stop it. You're doing your own thing. Stop comparing yourself. And I'm always looking at Instagram, and I'm like, oh, this person and I had surgery 2 weeks and, I can't speak well. 2 weeks apart from each other, and they've lost 10 more kilos than me. Like, why am I failing? Or why aren't I, or they might be 20 kilos heavier than me, but wearing a size 2 sizes smaller. So sometimes I just have to step away from the weight loss community Instagram page and go look at my dog's Instagram.
Well, that's like,
but it doesn't change though, because like I'm 3 years out, right? And this weekend coming, so by the time this goes to air, it'll be the weekend that's just gone. I'm supporting Elle, who we've had on the show before, and everybody knows she's quite a good friend of ours or whatever. She is doing an ultra marathon this weekend, right? So she's swimming 10 kilometers and riding 184 kilometers on the first day. The second day is almost a 300 kilometer bike ride, and then on the last day it's an 84.4 kilometer run. And my biggest job is to keep her motivated during that run. So I'm going to be jumping in as much as I possibly can for that run. And I've said, I'll do 10 kilometers at a time. Then I'll jump in the car. Somebody else can take it on. And then, we'll rotate. And then part of me was like, Alita, suck it up and just run the whole 84 kilometers with her, because just do it. You can do it. And then like I'm having this mental battle with myself to be kind of like, well, hang on a second. If she can do it, why can't I do it? But then that's me coming back to comparing myself to her, because I don't need to, like, I've never wanted to run I don't want to run 42 kilometers. I've never wanted to run a marathon before in my entire life. But now all of a sudden, because Elle's running it on Monday, I'm kind of like, well, why can't I run it as well? And it's just kind of like, you've got to stop comparing yourself to other people. It doesn't make you any more or less successful than them. It just means that you've got completely different goals to them. So 100% I'm going to be there for Elle on Monday, and I will run as much or as little as she wants me to. But like, I don't need to compare my success to her success through that portal, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
100%.
I think it's a big human instinct though to do that, but I think I put it out very early on in my bariatric surgery was like, unless you're using Instagram for inspiration, motivation, or connecting with others, you're probably using it for the wrong reasons. Because you do see people on there very much comparing. And Beck and I talked about it a few episodes ago where we both I was lingering on developing an eating disorder. And she did develop an eating disorder purely through wanting to continue to succeed. And because it's very addictive, that validation process that you get through Instagram where, you put a before and after up and then you get all these people being like, wow, da 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 da. And it's a validation thing. And it can become very addictive. So that's kind of where I look at it and go, yes, use it for inspiration, motivation, connecting with others, but don't find yourself in a bad place of, feeling lesser of yourself or feeling like you need to live up to a certain standard purely based on a social media platform. The only person that's going to make you happy is you. And if you can't, look at yourself and appreciate yourself, you're never going to be happy no matter whose standards you live up to. So yeah, it's just something you need to really be aware of, because it is unfortunately something that does come with the whole social media side of things.
Everybody's idea of motivation, inspiration
is totally different.
Completely different. So if your way of motivating and inspiring other people is by, becoming an ambassador for a certain product, then